Welcome to another episode of When Government Contract, the podcast with the Government Contract Association. If you are joining us live, welcome to the podcast. If you are new to the podcast, well, it's so good to have you here. My name is Abraham. I am your podcast host here. So excited to have all of you here. Now we have generally we have Vicky here, and we normally use this podcast as also kind of like a coaching session as well. But today you have the privilege of having me to you guys all to yourself because we're going to be talking about the fiscal year. Last week we talked about email techniques for the fiscal year. Today I'm going to talk about the fourth quarter at the federal level. And we're going to talk specifically about strategies and techniques that you can use to leverage the fourth quarter so that you can maximize contracting opportunities for your business during the fourth quarter itself. So today will be more of a training session and less of a coaching session because Vicky is out of pocket. And so you guys have me all to yourself. So if you're joining us live, let us know where you're coming from and just put in there the name of your business and where you are located. That would be awesome. If you're watching this on replay, it's good to always have you watch this on replay. We post this here on our Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and different other social communities that we're tied to. So with that, let me go ahead and bring up my PowerPoint, and then we're going to be diving in. And so again, this is the Win Government Contract podcast powered by the GovAssociation, the Contractor Association. We really, we're here to support the small business community. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and then we're going to dive in. Lots of really exciting, information and opportunities to share with you guys. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and then we will go into today's content. So, all right. So we're going to be talking about taking advantage of the government fiscal buying cycle. So we're going to be talking about the federal, state, county, cities, and the different type of fiscal years out there. But this is what we call contracting season. So this is what we're going to be talking about. So let me go ahead and queue up my slides here. Let me want to make sure that you guys can see my slides okay. If you can see my slides okay, let me know that you can see my slides okay. And all right, comments. And as I go through this here, this will be an interactive session. So if you have questions or comments along the way, feel free to put into the chat, and we're going to be addressing that as we continue with today's podcast here. So feel free to do that. I do want to make sure that you guys have opportunity to get some help. That's really why we're doing this live podcast here, so that you can maximize your contract opportunities in the government marketplace. So we have people joining us from Cincinnati, so that's great, and really from some folks from Metro Atlanta. All right, awesome, good to have you here as well. Now, myself, I am based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and as a association, we used to have a chapter in the DMV area, but the person running that chapter, he, had some health issues, health challenges, so we had to pause that chapter in the DMV area. But let's go ahead and dive in. And so I see some of you guys are joining us live. So welcome again back to the Win Government Contract podcast. And today we're going to be talking about taking advantage of the government fiscal buying cycles. Now I say cycles plural because we're going to cover federal, state, counties, and even a little bit of commercial fiscal years as well. So let's dive in. A little bit about myself. My name is Abraham Schoen. I am the founder of the Government Contractor Association. I'm an entrepreneur like many of you, also a small business advocate. And I love what we do here. We've trained over 15,000 businesses, and we've helped businesses win over $2 billion in government contracts. And for the work that we've done, I was awarded President Obama's Lifetime Achievement Award, the Global Humanitarian Award, as well named as a Goodwill Ambassador for the state of Georgia by Governor Brian Kemp. So, but enough about me. Let's go into you, right? Because that's why we're here, because we want to talk about you and your business and how you can take advantage of the opportunities in the government marketplace itself. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about the fiscal years. What are the different type of fiscal years out there? We're going to talk about the best time to market and build relationship. We're going to talk about when are KOs more receptive to hearing from you. We're going to talk about the 10 steps that an agency goes through to engage you as a business owner. And then we'll talk about how you can actually take advantage of the fiscal buying season. And then I do have opportunities for you to download bonuses and some good contents. And so stay to the end. Now, Sheena, she came to a training class just like you guys did here, and in the classes that she's attended, in her first 3 months, she was awarded 5 contracts. In fact, her fifth contract, she said, "Abe, I don't think I can do this here because I've won, and I don't know how to I don't have the people and the resources to perform on it. And if you win a contract, you have to perform on it." So I told Sheena, I said, "Hey, don't return it back to the government. That's going to make you look bad. So let's find a way to overcome that." And so she was able to actually perform on that there. So she's grown her company in the government market, and so if you there's only so much I can cover in the time that we have together here. So if you stay to the end, I promise I will give you everything I can. And also, I'm going to show you how to get more help. And then I got some free gifts and some free bonuses for you guys at the very end here. So stick around to the very end. Some really good content. And some of you who've been with us, on a weekly basis, we give out really good content and just free gifts for joining us on the podcast. So this is just free bonuses for you guys. So stay to the end. And one of them is going to be a $20 billion winning proposal template. We're also going to give you some email templates also in terms of reach out to contracting officers. So let's dive in deeper into the fiscal years. And so what is a fiscal year? A fiscal year is a period of time that government agency use for budget and accounting purposes. Now, for you as a small business, your fiscal year is very different. Most small businesses, your fiscal year is January 1st to December 31st. But different agencies have different type of fiscal years. And so that's what we're going to be diving into. And then why this matters to you in terms of understanding the fiscal year that the government is going through right now. So this is the financial year, and it's also the budget year. But this is if you have a sales process or what we call your capture process. If you understand the government's buying process, then that's really where you can really increase sales and grow your business. You have to understand, match your sales process or your capture process with the government's buying process. And when it comes together, the greatest opportunities happen when you understand your cycle and the government cycle. So let's look at the different types of fiscal years out there. So you have traditionally for businesses is January 1st to December 31st. Now, most Fortune 500 companies, they don't have the traditional small business calendar year, right? Which is January 1st to December 31st. Your larger corporations, they normally have different type of a budget year. But for most of you, that's your standard budget year. At the federal market, their new year starts on October 1st and ends on September 30th. And so right now we are in the fourth quarter, and that's really why the purpose of this class here is to really address the fourth quarter at the federal level. Now, many states, their fiscal year starts on July 1st and ends on June 30th. So they just ended, their fourth quarter for most states and most local agencies as well. Just to kind of give you a little bit of perspective, 46 states use June, the end of June as the end of their fiscal year. Alabama is September 30th. Michigan is September 30th. New York is March 31st. And Texas is August 31st. So New York and Texas, they're larger states. They have a different comfort level in terms of budgets and so forth. And so they have a different fiscal year. But outside of that, all 46 states starts July 1st and ends June 30th. That gives you a little bit more perspective in terms of fiscal year. And right now, I shared earlier that we are in July, and so this is the beginning of the fourth quarter for the federal market. And this is very important for you if you are a business focused on trying to get into the federal marketplace. So let's look at the different quarters and different things that happen in the different portions of the different quarters here. So as you start with first quarter, and the first quarter again is July to September. And in this quarter here, the government, they kick off a lot of projects and they look for planning. They do, this is what contracting officer tends, they tend to take their vacation time. They tend to, have a little bit more downtime during the first quarter. A lot of budget is being looked at and being, scoped out. They're looking at when they're going to spend money, and they're looking at some of these different initiatives during this time here during the first quarter. Now, during the second quarter, they start to spend more money. It increases a little bit, and money is being spent more. And we'll look at a chart in a second to really show you, how much money for every quarter. And then during this second quarter here, if it's at the state level, the governor is reviewing the following year spending. Third quarter, at the state level, legislators are reviewing different things and planning out the following. And then fourth quarter, this is where the most of the budget is awarded to businesses here. So high level overview here. And for you, there's different things that you should do every part of the fiscal year. Different quarters, you have different strategies. So let's look at break down a little bit more in terms of the state and what they look like here. So the most common year in terms of county, cities, and educational school system is June till it ends in June more so. It starts July 1st and ends in June. For some counties and school system is December, some of it is September, and a few of them are in the, in terms of cities and counties and so forth, it's the various different months. But if we're looking at it in more of a traditional business sense, many of you, your business is based upon your traditional calendar year itself. So for all of you, it's the traditional calendar year. 65% of publicly traded companies, they use the calendar year. 99% of all small businesses use the traditional calendar year as your fiscal year. And so that's for most situations. But there are different industries out there that have a different type of a fiscal cycle. So let's look at retail stores. This is, commercial market in terms of the retail stores. I'd like to hear some comments here. If you are a retail business, what do you think is the fiscal year? When does the fiscal year start and when does it end? Yeah, if you have an idea, put it in the chat. Anybody? What's your guess in terms of if you are a retail business, whether it's Walmart or Publix or JCPenney or any other, what do you think is the traditional fiscal year for retail stores? Okay, so we have a question. Why do agencies use different different fiscal year? Different agencies use different. Everyone has their own approach. So a lot of it has to do with their legislations. Like, for example, cities, they have a board of commissioners or they have a city council members. So sometimes they have commissioners, they have or city council members, and they meet. And so when they meet, they plan out. And so it depends on when they meet and depends on the fiscal year that they choose. So because it's done at the local level in those type of situations. uh, for counties, cities, states, they all choose their own based upon more so their legislative sessions and based upon certain market conditions that they're comfortable with. And a lot of this area has been established for decades and decades and decades ago. And so they're not probably not going to change any of that there. So for at the commercial market, they choose their fiscal year based upon their market condition. So some of you put January through December. Some of you said January through December. Nobody said anything else. But let's look at retail stores. So retail stores is actually February 1st to January 31st. Now I'm curious, right? Aren't you curious why retail stores have it on February 1st? Anybody have thoughts around that? Why is it that they start not January, but they start in February 1st as the beginning of their new year? Okay, let me give you some thoughts on this here. Think about when Black Friday starts, right? Black Friday starts in November, the on Thanksgiving. So the most of the highest buying season is towards the uh, November and December. So it's the holiday season where people spend the most money with retail stores. But then why is it that they don't close it out at the end of December? Here's why. People give out a lot of gifts, but what happens after you give a gift to a family member or a friend that they don't like it? Guess what? They say, "Hey, can I return this here?" Right? Or "Thank you so much, but this is not a fit," or "The size is too big, too small." There's different reasons why. So there's a lot of returns after the biggest buying season for retail stores. So retail companies, they want to wait until after the bulk of the returns, because typically you have about 30 days to do returns. And so now they can have an accurate, better reporting. Because if you end it in December 31st, and then you have all of these returns on January, then it's going to look like you have a big old loss in January. But by closing it on January 31st, now they can actually reconcile appropriately for the busiest time of the year for retail stores. So some of you said returns, absolutely. So returns is the number one reason why they start on February 1st and not end it after all of the buying season. School system is July 1st to June 30th. And some of you, what's your guess? Why is it that school system starts July 1st and end on June 30th? Any thoughts on that? Why July 1st and to June 30th? Okay, so I'm gonna chime in on that there because that follows the traditional school time as well. Most school starts in July. Sometimes some of them start late June, but your students and your administrator and people come back in July, preparing for classes to start either late July or early August, and so the administrators start working, and things starts happening around this time here, and so that's really why it starts on July and goes to June 30th for school systems. Now resorts, right? Like resorts like Disney World, resorts like cruise lines, carnivals, and all of your big resorts facilities. What's your guess? I think someone says summer vacations. I think that's probably a very good guess. So they start October 1st to September 30th. So the most people travel and go to resorts during the warm months. So from all the way from June, July, August, September is really when they spend the most money. These 4 months here is where resorts make the most money. And so they reconcile October 1st as the new year for them for resorts. So everybody's slightly different, and your business, you can choose. You're not obligated to do January to December 31st. You can have your own business fiscal year, but you have to have a good reason. If you don't have a good reason, just stick with the traditional calendar year. So now, before I address more strategies around fourth quarter and what to do, I'm going to talk about the 10 steps that agencies go through to engage you as a business owner. So first of all, agencies establishes, an agency will establish a need. They will say, hey, we have a problem and we have a need. And then if they have a problem, if they have a need, then they will say, we need to have a budget. And so they will either at the federal level, they will go to Congress and say, we need more money. At the state level, they will go to the state legislators and say, hey, we need more funding for this area. And so a budget and appropriation is done. And then after a budget is created, then a forecast is determined of when they're going to spend that money. And then they're going to do a market survey. Now, for at the federal level, what you're going to see a market survey is going to come out as a RFI or a sources sought. And now, right now, there's a lot of RFIs and sources sought on the market and at the federal level right now because they're going through the market survey. And then as they go through the market survey, it's going to come out August or September as a RFP, request for proposal. So sometimes we call this the market study. Sometimes we call it market survey. Sometimes we call it a request for information or a sources sought. All these terminology means the same thing, that they're trying to determine whether they're going to set aside, whether they're going to go with small business, whether they're going to go open competition, or they're going to use GSA schedule or whichever contracting method they're going to choose. Now, the mistake, this is a very important comment here. The mistake that a lot of small businesses make is this here. And this, oh, it's just a market survey or just a sources sought. I'm going to wait until it becomes an RFP. I'm going to wait until it becomes an RFQ. Then I will bid on it. That is a mistake. That's step number 5. Step number 5 is a solicitation or otherwise known as RFP, RFQ, or IFB, invitation for bid. And many of you wait until it comes here. The truth is that if you wait until it becomes a solicitation, it's almost too late already, because now you're playing behind and you're reacting to the opportunity. Whereas a business that is more strategic, they've been tracking it during the need, the budget, the forecast, and they've responded to the RFI. And by the time the RFP comes out, the contracting officer already has a good idea of who they want to award it to. Let me say that again. By the time the solicitation comes out, the RFP, RFQ comes out, the contracting officer already has someone in mind. And if you're waiting until that point, your chances of winning is very slim. Now, you can still win, but it's very slim. So how do you win sole source contract? You win sole source contract by doing step 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let me give you a real practical example. Some of you may remember the Zika virus. Zika virus is a mosquito-borne virus, and they started tracking it in more so Central America and eventually made its way through Mexico. And it was making its way through the Caribbeans and eventually making its way to South Florida and to Texas and to California and New Mexico and all these southern states. And what the Zika virus was causing is that some of the women that were pregnant, the babies were born with some type of abnormalities, and they attribute it back to the Zika virus. So there is a need. So the government says we have a problem, or CDC more so went to Congress and say we have a need, we have a problem. And the Congress appropriated billions of dollars and said, CDC, we're going to give you billions of dollars, and we want you to implement a strategy to present or to prevent the progression of Zika virus into the northern states outside of the border states itself. So what the CDC did was CDC started looking for companies. Now they have a budget, so they were hiring companies that have trucks that will go along all of the highways and along all the major border roads to spray for mosquitoes, to potentially kill all the mosquitoes that's moving its way north, so that these mosquitoes that have the potential virus in it would die. And there were opportunities out there. I saw opportunities for companies. They were awarding hundreds of millions of dollars to spray for mosquitoes along the southern border. So a budget was created, and then a forecast was made, and then they did a market survey, and then they awarded contracts. If you were aware of that situation and you were tracking it from the need, the budget, the forecast, and the market survey, potentially some of those opportunities in your local community, if you're a small little company in the middle of New Mexico along the border, you potentially could have got a sole source if you were tracking it step 1 through 4. If you were waiting until step 5, now you're bidding against everybody else. You're behind the 8 ball at this point here. So very important strategy. Step 1, 2, 3, and 4 is really where you need to play in this cycle here in terms of the procurement cycle from the agency perspective. This is not your procurement cycle is very similar to this, but is not the same as the government's procurement cycle. Now, this is an oversimplification, right? They go through more than 10 steps. I just summarize it as 10 steps so that you can understand what they go through. Once it becomes a solicitation, then after that, you find it, you read it, you say, oh, I'm interested, and then you submit a proposal. And then they have an award process. Step 7 is an award process. They have what's called a source review team. Now, for big projects, the source review team or source review board, there may be 20 people on that team. And they split that into a pricing review team, a management review team, a technical review team. They split into multiple people and multiple groups to review different parts of the proposal itself. But ultimately, they award it based upon the evaluation criteria that they determined when they put out the RFP. And then at that point, the contractor goes in and start performing, and then the agency and the contracting officer and the COTAR and the program managers, they start making sure that the work is delivered and the services performed appropriately. And then they want to make sure that you're a contractor or your business is submitting the reports, you're staying in compliance. If there is insurance requirement, that you're doing the insurance. So the compliance component of it is very important to the agency. And then finally, they go through a closure phase. The closure is where the contracting officer packages all of the paperwork. They meet with the supervisor, they meet with the legal team to make sure that everything is done properly, invoices have been paid, and that the contractor is happy, that the agency is happy, everybody's happy. And then the contract officer can close the book on it and file it away and move on to the next project. So these are the 10 steps. Understanding these 10 steps that an agency, more specifically a contracting officer, what they go through, it prepares you to engage them better. So now let's talk about your 12 steps that you go through to engage a contracting officer or an agency. Your 12-step methodology, I call it your procurement cycle, getting you procurement ready. But we call this here ASRM ROPCC. ASRM ROPCC is an acronym that we created to teach you about the goddess of government contracting. And the goddess of government contracting, her name is ASRM ROPCC. And so step 1 is A, which is assessment. You have to assess your business. Step 2 is strategy. You have to determine what are your short-term strategies, what are your long-term strategies. And then you have to educate yourself. You have to learn how to speak governance. It's a different language, a different culture. I'm really encouraged by all of you joining us live. And or if you're watching this here replay, I'm glad that you're watching this here because this is you're educating yourself. You're teaching yourself how to speak Governese. Now, for some of you, new no me ton to ku me yok small business me ton to ku ka ke chai o halu to la thamba. Yo link the ya 8A certified la STVSB certified. Ku ya itu tu neng ku pau ya tu neng o halu to la thamba me chate tan shino ku mo so source contract to me. Anybody understand what I just said? Anybody? Raise your hand if you understood what I just said. What I said was this here. I spoke to you in my native language, which is Hmong, Hmong. It's a dialect of, I'm from Laos originally. It's a dialect from a community in Laos. And what I said is this here. I said that some of you are small business owners. You're here to learn about government contracting. And if I happen to know contracting officers that are willing to award you a sole source contract. If you happen to have 8A or STVSB or any other certification, raise your hand and I will connect you to get a sole source contract. That's how it's done, right? It's about learning the language. And so you didn't understand. All I wanted you to do was raise your hand and you will get a sole source contract. Now, that is a little bit an example, but let me give you a real example that just happened. So one of the companies that I'm coaching, they get an email from a contracting officer. And the contracting officer said, in fact, sometime in the future, I'm going to redact all the names. I'm going to actually show the example of the email itself. But I'll just paraphrase it for you guys. So this small business owner, they're not woman certified, they're not 8A certified, but they've been building a relationship with the contracting officer. So the contracting officer sends the emails, and the email said, I know you're not 8A certified, but I have a requirement for 2 people, and I need 2 people for a project that's coming up. And I was thinking maybe if you know someone who might be 8A company, or I'm thinking about maybe setting aside for 8A competition. So that was the email, just a very general, you know, email, just very general in that sense. And so he shared the email with me. And I said, dude, let me interpret the message for you. And I said, this is what the contracting officer is saying. From the contracting officer's perspective, they can't show favoritism. They can't say, hey, I want to sole source you a contract, because they can't say that, because that shows favoritism. So if they're sending an email, which is public record, anyone can subpoena that email if you knew that there was an email sent, and you can specifically ask for date and time, it can be grounds for a protest. So I said, let me interpret this email for you. The contracting officer is saying this here. I want to award you a sole source contract, but since you're not 8A certified, go and bring me an 8A company and I will sole source to you and your 8A teaming partner. That was the message within the message. And he said, is that right, Abe? I said, yes, that is the message. So he said, what should I do? I said, well, send the email to the contracting officer and say this, sir. Dear contracting officer, we're really excited about this project here. This is exactly what we can do. And we have an 8A teaming partner. And could you sole source this project to our teaming partnership? And guess what the contracting officer said? Yes, I'm interested in sole sourcing this here to your company, or your teaming to your 8A company. And so I introduced this coaching client to another company that's 8A certified. And I say, hey, 8A friend, non-8A friend, connect me with each other, go and get this sole source contract. And they went out, talked to the contract officer talked to the SBA, and so this is going to be about a $500,000 project. Sole source, because they didn't speak Governese, but they had someone like me to interpret to them Governese. but that's really educating yourself, right? And so you're here, you're investing in your knowledge. This is very important. You have to speak the language. You have to understand the culture. The culture is contracting officer cannot show favoritism. And so they have to come across neutral. But very important lesson, and some of you should take that to heart. And so as you're building a relation with contracting officer, you might somewhere down the road you might receive an email, and you want to use it judiciously and get that sole source contract. So registration is part of your 12 step. Image, creating a brand that's going to create trust. And then marketing. How do you market to contracting officer? How do you market in the fourth quarter? And then if you're trying to understand how to market in the fourth quarter, last week's session in our podcast, we actually did a deep dive. I actually broke down an email. We actually talked about how to market. We talked about a list of contracting officer that we actually gave to you. So if you rewatch last week's episode, and you can actually get all those goodies. And then relationship building is really key to winning sole source contract. And then how to find opportunities, how to write proposals, how to perform on it, and how to stay in compliance, how to get paid, and how to close out your opportunities. So these are the 12 steps that you go through to engage a contracting officer. So there are some specific things along this process, right? You as a business, from your perspective, you go through these 12 steps. From preparation, promotion, proposal, performance, you get to profit. And then you go through the 12-step methodology. Now, from my perspective as the association, my role is different, right? My role is I help you I think like I'm a coach. I think like I'm the CEO of your company. And how do I position your company to have the best strategy to be successful during the preparation? During the promotion, I help you to think through branding and marketing and relationship building. During the proposal phase, I teach you how to research and how to write proposals. And then performance, help you to understand execution and delivery and stay in compliance and contract management. So this is part of the process. Your goal is to get to profit. My goal is to help you to build a professional contracting department or a capture team. So you have a different goal. My goal is different. Now, the government, they go through 10 steps, right? But their goals are different as well. So they go through a preparation, promotion, proposal, performance, and their 10-step methodology. But their goal is project completion, successful project completion. Your goal is profit. My goal is to help you build a professional team. Government's goal is to project completion. So these are the 5 P's that you go through in the 12-step and 10-step that comes and align with each other here. All right, so let's talk about first quarter. Now that you understand your process and the government's process, now we can kind of break down the first, second, third, and fourth quarter a little bit. So and now this is a general rule. This is not an absolutely rule. I think there's some questions. So let's see if I can answer some questions here. Okay, so someone said, what is sole source? I'll take a quick second to answer that there, but feel free to get with Hubert to learn more about that. But sole source means this here. It's a direct award to your business, and you do not have to compete on it. You do not have to bid on it. You still write a proposal, but the contracting officer just say, oh, hey, Adreno, I'm going to award you this contract. Or they can say, hey, Richard, I'm going to award you this contract. And done. It cannot be protested. As long as they follow the procurement protocol, they can award you a direct award, sole source. Sole source means one, sole. And award it to your company, and you just submit your proposal and you start performing and get paid and move on. So sole source is a very powerful tool, the most powerful tool you can have as a small business in the government market. We have a lot of other classes, so come join a class. My production manager will put the link to our events, so that if you have more questions related to the the basics of government contracting. We have free classes all the time, and so come and join us. Our podcast, we do that, and so you can also join us every week for our podcast as well. So first quarter, from the government's perspective, they have the need, the budget, and the forecast. Now, from your perspective, you are going through your assessment, your strategy, your education, and your registration during the first quarter. Second quarter, the government is doing a market study, a market survey. For you, you're making sure your image, your marketing, and your relationship are in place, and you're engaging them during the second quarter. Third quarter, government is putting out solicitations. They're putting out opportunities, and they're reviewing, and then they're awarding contracts during the third quarter. And this happens also in the fourth quarter as well. But you're doing opportunities, you're finding opportunities, and you're writing proposals. Fourth quarter, you're doing the government is doing the previous three steps, but they're also managing performance, compliance, and closure, and you're going through performance, compliance, and closure as well. So different areas. Now we have a really in-depth class that covers all this in more details, but today I want to kind of give you an overview of the different activities during the different stages. So what are your key initiatives during the fourth quarter? That's really what we're talking about here, right? Agencies are, this is the acquisition part of the year that they have to spend their money. And so we call this here where all of their budget has to be spent, or it could potentially be unobligated in the next fiscal year. And so they're reviewing to say, hey, we allocated all these funds for these different things. If we didn't spend it, do we really need it again? Is that a real pain point that we need to solve? But the terminology that laymen, like all of us, right? We're not contracting officers. The term we use is use it or lose it. If an agency does not spend their budget, chances are they might lose it. Now, if they don't use it year after year after year, they're going to lose it eventually. And I was working with a company, and they do audio and visual, and they receive an email, say, hey, do you do this here? And it was like a small order, $50,000, because the government needed to spend that money. $50,000 in a $1 billion budget is nothing. And that's really how most of you should start, right? Start by going after these micro opportunities, these small projects. That's where you're going to get the most traction. So they want to avoid budget reduction. But let's look at the big picture, right? So this is 2023, the fiscal year for 2023. This is what was awarded in 2023. Fourth quarter, $246 billion was awarded, which is about 33, almost 34% of all of the funding was spent during the fourth quarter. So first quarter, October, November, December, 140 billion. Second quarter, 200 billion. Third quarter, 171 billion. And fourth quarter, 246 billion. If everything was equal, it should be about 25% each quarter. But the third quarter is about 34% of all funding, 33.5%, 34% all happens in the fourth quarter. So the chunk of money is happening as we speak right now. So you are here learning about the fourth quarter because it's the most important quarter of the year. So the timing is right for you. Now, let me break down a few things here. Typical year, $500 to $700 billion awarded every single year. And top agency is DOD. They awarded over 60% of all the federal contracts. Department of Energy, 5%. The VA, 5.1%. HHS is 4.6%. And Homeland Security is 3.1%. So different agencies. Now, these numbers changes from year to year. But this is a good idea of how much every agency spends money. The DOD represents the most of the opportunities. So if you are a veteran, if you're former military, you already speak the language, right? We talk about learning to speak Governese. You understand the culture through your military experience. You understand that there's a chain of command. You understand that there's certain protocol, there's certain processes and methodology. You might even have a relationship with contracting officer, program managers, people that used to serve with you during your military years, but now they're in procurement already, or they didn't leave military, they shifted to procurement. So DoD is the largest, and so if you're thinking which agency to work with, yeah, focus on DoD. You can never go wrong with that. And then CDC, this is they awarded over $6 billion. Now this number changes from year to year depending on what's happening. In terms of opportunities, 60% of federal opportunities are competitively awarded, and with over 20 million opportunities out there. Now, here's the kicker. $190 billion was not competed. It was awarded to different companies for different reasons. Now, we said sole source earlier. There's different type of sole source out there. There's what's called small business sole source, and there's also sole source because a company is the only company that does that type of work. So sole source can happen in many different ways. For many of you, sole source, the sole source we're talking about is small business sole source. Now, if the government is building a missile star defense strategy, they're going to sole source it to probably Lockheed Martin or maybe Northrop Grumman or maybe Boeing. They're not going to sole source it. They're not going to put it up for competition. Why? Because it's top secret. So certain things that are cosmic. So there's open, and then there's public trust, and then there is secret, and then there's top secret, and then there's cosmic, right? Cosmic clearance, some of you will never need cosmic clearance. Cosmic clearance is similar to top secret and is used if you have cosmic clearance, if there's aliens out there or not. If aliens landed in Roswell. The deepest, darkest secrets if you have cosmic clearance. But most of the time it's just top secret or secret clearance that's necessary. But when something is top secret or something is super sensitive, it has to do with national security, the government will go to a company and say, hey, we're going to sole source this to you. That's it. The reason is because of national security. So $190 billion, it was not even competed. It just awarded to companies. So this is really the game. Yes, you can do the competitive bidding, but you want to really play the game at the not competed. That's where your greatest win will be. So how do you win sole source contract then? And during the fourth quarter, then what you need to do is you need to understand relationships. And we have a really in-depth class that talks about relationship. I'm just going to quickly touch upon it today. So relationship has to do with your business, your government contractor. You need support. GCA is here to support you. You need relationship with the end user or the government agency. You also need a relationship with the contracting office because the end user have the need, contracting officer have the power to award contract. And then you also need relation with small business advocates, or sometimes we call them small business specialists. They have influence. These three light green circles here are the relationships that you need to win sole source contracts. But you also need relationship with large companies. You need relation with other small businesses that have certifications. You may not have all the certification. In fact, your company may not have any certifications. You need other small businesses that have certifications so that you can get sole source contracts. And then you need to build your government contracting team, your capture team, your capture department. So you need these 6 types of relationships to be successful in the government market. So fourth quarter, you want to go after low-hanging fruit, right? Low-hanging fruit are SAP. SAP or the threshold for SAP is $250,000. Anything less than $250,000, the government wants to award it to small businesses. So that's really the first low-hanging fruit. The other low-hanging fruit is what we've been talking about, right? Sole source. Sole source is direct award to one company. You do not need to compete on it. Very, very easy process. There's no lengthy procurement cycle about it. It just you just build a relationship and they choose your company. Or you go after micro purchases during the fourth quarter. So fourth quarter is where lots of small projects that government will spend a lot of money on small little items that they need. And this is typically at the federal level, micro purchase is $10,000 or less. Now, states, cities, counties, they might be 2,000, it might be 3,000, it might be 15,000. Everybody has a different threshold. I actually was working on a project for a county in Minnesota, and their micro threshold was 100,000, even higher than the federal threshold of 10,000. So micro purchases very easy. They can just do. They can just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, um, Richard, I need this here." It could be done through a purchase order. It's very easy for micro purchase. It can be swiped by credit cards. So those are the three key things to take advantage of. Go after these low hanging fruit. So what should you do during fourth quarter? This is some other things you want to do. You want to pump up the volume. If you've been writing one proposal a month, your goal for these July, August, and September is to do at least 1 to 2 to 3 proposals a week, because this is the highest buying season. And if there's a feeding frenzy out there, the bigger companies, they're not going to bid on the smaller projects. They're going to go after the bigger projects. So even if it's an open competition, your chances of winning is going to be greater, because the larger companies are going to focus on the bigger opportunities, and the 500,000, the $1 million, the $2 million projects, you're really only competing against other smaller businesses. So your chances will be better, because you're competing against similar size and similar scope. So increase your activity. You want to market and you want to send emails to contracting officers. You want to engage the small business specialist. You want to reach out to your SBA boss. If you are 8A certified company, reach out to your SBA boss right now. Now your BOS, this is a governance terminology, right? Your governance terminology, BOS, is not your boss, right? You are the boss of your own company. You don't need another boss. But BOS stands for Business Opportunity Specialist. So when you get certified, you are assigned a BOS, and your BOS is kind of like your liaison to agencies. You want to help the SBA to help you. Remember, I can't remember which movie, but help me to help you, right? And so you have to help the SBA to help you. Your boss is not going to say, "Hey, I've got this project for you." It's going to be rare that your boss is going to do that. You have to stay in front of your boss. So this is a time where you reach out to your boss, say, "Hey, I've been tracking this agency. Um, do they have anything that's within your purview? Do they have any sole source? Do they have any set aside?" Or if you've been tracking a project with an agency, you can actually email your boss and say, "Hey, there is an RFI. I reach out to the contracting officer, and they might be interested in doing a sole source." And your boss can reach out to the agency, to the contracting officer, and encourage the contracting officer to sole source it to your business. So sole source happens from a few different angles. Sole source happens from, we talk about relationships, right? Sole source happens through the end user can initiate a sole source, the contracting office, the contracting officer, they can initiate a sole source, or a small business advocate, the BOS, they can encourage the end user or a contracting officer to sole source an opportunity. So those are the places where you can get a sole source. So now we have a list of the small business specialists. This is the directory here. So it's available to you guys. I'll put it in the chat in a little bit here. Stay to the end, and I will put this link in the chat for you to have access to it. Also, you want to use sam.gov to find contracting officer. And last week, we actually talked through this. So go watch the video from last week in terms of how to use sam.gov to add yourself as an interested vendor, and how to use sam.gov to find a list of additional contracting officer that you can engage. And this is an email sample that you can use to engage um, contracting officers, to engage small business specialists. This is a very specific example that you can use. All right, so now we're gonna now wrap up. And if you have questions, put your questions into the chat. I'm gonna come to questions in a second. I want to share with you a upcoming class that we have. Is called our Certified Capture Manager, and this is where in 14 weeks we teach you how to speak Governese. So this is a very structured program. It's a professional program. It's equivalent to a master's degree, although it's not a degree program. It's a certificate program that's approved by the state as a post-secondary educational program. So it's equivalent to a private university program, but it's a certificate program versus a degree program. And so this is where we teach you how to be a capture manager or a business development person for your own company. So this is, we help you to win more contract. That's really what this program is about. And it allows you to be distinguished among everybody else by being professionally certified as a capture manager. Expands your knowledge. We give you 3 years of knowledge in 14 weeks. Did you hear that? 3 years of, you can spend 3 years trying to fumble through government contracting, or you can, in 14 weeks, you can learn what you need to learn about government contracting. And so, and it helps you to adhere to professional standard and code of conduct. It allows you to gain an edge in your competitors. It allows you to potentially increase your income. And so if you were to go and hire a capture manager, now, if you're the CEO, you are the capture manager. If you don't understand what capture management is, then you're not going to be super successful in the government market. The average salary for a capture manager is $159,000. And I've seen where capture managers being hired for $220,000, $250,000. So very, very important skill set. Very few people have the skill set here. And so what we're doing is we're teaching you these highly sought after skills, teaching you how to do sales for your own company, or if you are a salesperson for another company, teaching you how to do sales in the government market itself. So 14 weeks, but we put in 15 weeks so there's a break and to prep for the exam itself. But 14 weeks goes by very fast. You get the Gov Fast Track software, you get the Gov LMS software, you get a video course, you get the practice portal, and then you have a 2-day boot camp after the class itself. And then you take the exam, and then you also get a chance to network with other professionals, other business owners to team together, and we assign you a study partner. We assign you a coach in this program here. So this is a very sought after program here. And so the Gov Fast Track software is really the bedrock. This is your step-by-step software. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Gov Fast Track software in terms of what's inside of it so that you can really understand what that is all about. And then we're going to wrap up here in 1 second here. So this is the Gov Fast Track software. So when you come in, we talk about the 12-step methodology, the 5 Ps. So we take you through step by step. And so every week we say, okay, this is what we're going to cover this week here. So the CCM class is right here. This is the schedule. And so week 1, this is what you're going to be doing. And we're going to ask you to do these things here, get familiar with the 5 Ps and memorize the 5 Ps and learn the 12-step. And week 2, we're going to cover these steps here. We're going to teach you assessment and strategies. And so we're going to teach you short-term, long-term strategy with the fastest way to win government contracts. So every week we just kind of take you through step by step, but specifically the details are up here. So this is what we're going to teach you: how to build your business infrastructure, and how to get your corporate kit so that you can get certification. And we go through it just kind of step by step. So how to get your e-verification. Now there's going to be some opportunities that you cannot bid on if you don't have your e-verification. So if you're saying, well, what is e-verification? Well, you click on this link. You see all these different links, all the resources already in here. step by step. So if you say, what is e-verification? Well, you click on this link and you go set up your account with. So you need to be registered in SAM, but you also need to be registered through E-Verify. And this is where if you're going to place a employee into a government facilities, many projects require that you have an e-verification number. And this is really the portal where you run the social security number of your employees into this portal to make sure that they properly have documentation to work in the United States. Because some areas, some facilities in the federal market or in the counties and cities as well, it has sensitive information. And if someone is not a citizen, they cannot go into those areas. So e-verification is part of the process. Um, and then as you go through this here, we talk about insurance, we talk about bonding, we talk about strategies, right? We talk about what's the fastest way to win contracts. And we give you a class, we cover this here, and we say, okay, what's the best short-term strategy? We give you the strategies behind it. And so if you open this up, we actually go in and we cover what is the best strategy. And the best strategy is to be a subcontractor. Companies start, they want to be the prime. This is a more of a long-term strategy. When you start, you need to be a subcontractor to the prime. And so we teach you how to find the prime contractor, how to find companies that are winning contracts so that you can team with them. So this is covered in the 14 weeks. And then we just kind of go through it step by step, your long-term strategy. And we talk about how to get funding and how to find investors to invest in your company, how to get lines of credit. Because if you win a contract, you need money to get started. The government's not going to give you money when you win a contract. And then we talk about promotion, your capability statements and your branding, your PowerPoint presentation and your capability video. Your business card needs to look a certain way. And we give you samples of what that needs to look like. Your business card needs to have your UEI number. It needs to have your NAICS code and your certifications. So for every single item that we teach you, we give you a link, we give you a resource, or we give you a reason why you need to do it that way. So this is the most comprehensive training program in the government contracting market itself. No other training program out there exists that will take you through 950-ish steps. And so this is very comprehensive. And so if you're interested in this program here, we do have some classes that's coming up. And this is a serious investment. And so if you are serious about your business, to streamline your process, get into the government fast, you can go enroll into the program at capturemanagement.org. My production manager will put this link in the chat. So with that, for some of you who are small business owners, we do have a scholarship program. So reach out to us. We'll give you the scholarship form to help you get into the program. And then for those of you that stay to the end, we got some awesome bonuses. And so this is the link to get to the bonuses. And so this is the link right here. I'm going to go ahead and put into the chat so that you can have access to the bonuses. So this is your bonus. Go here, and we got lots of good bonuses. The email templates and we give you a free template to capability statements. If you have a mediocre capability statement, or if you don't have a capability statement, this is that bonus right here. And then I'm going to just tell you a few quick stories, and then we're going to wrap up here. And then if you have questions, put into the chat, and I will stick around for a few minutes to answer any questions that some of you guys may have. So this is Barbara. Barbara her company is called A Action, and she does facilities and janitorial. And so she got into our CCM program, got into our coaching program, and the CDC sent her email, said, hey, we want to see if you can come in and do a capability briefing with us. And we need a waste remediation company. And Barbara reached out to Barbara, said, hey, this CDC wants to meet with me, but I don't do waste remediation. And I said, Barbara, do you remember what you learned in class? You learned that if you can't do something, doesn't mean that you don't do it. It means you need to do what? Some of you know the answer, right? What should you do if an agency is looking for something and you personally can't self perform on it? What's the best strategy? Best strategy is find a teaming partner. And so I said, Barbara, you know companies out there that can do waste remediation. So let me explain the difference between janitorial and waste remediation. Janitorial is you go into a facility, you take out the trash, you throw it away. Waste remediation is you go into a facility, you take out the junk and you recycle it. So for example, if it's a computer, you recycle that computer. You clean the disk and recycle the computer. If it's paper product, you recycle the paper product. If it's certain different things, instead of just trashing it, there's a recycle process to it. So the waste remediation is a little bit different from janitorial. And so we prepared her capability briefing, her PowerPoint presentation. She went and met with the CDC, and she was awarded a $3.7 million sole source contract a month and a half later after her meeting. So this is Buki. Buki started her company, and she was excited. Her first subcontracting project was for $60,000. And the good news is that the the prime that won this Army contract, it was for, I think, for about $115 million. The prime needed to use small businesses. So one of the strategies I was teaching Buki is find the large companies and let me teach you how to find the large companies, engage them so they can sub work to you, because as a women-owned business, they need to work with women-owned businesses. 35% of opportunity must be sub out to small businesses. And so she built a relationship, and the large company said, hey, we got this Army project, and we need an SEO company to come and do this work for 6 weeks, $60,000. Well, they were so impressed with her that the prime used her 27 times on this same project over the next year and a half. So she did $1.6 million with the prime, one relationship over $1.6 million on her first project. So that's kind of her story. So with that, we're going to wrap it up here. We got resources to help you guys learn more, but take advantage of the fiscal year. This is the contracting season. This is where they're going to spend the most money. So with that, I'm going to pause here and see if there's any questions. Adreno says, yes, outsourcing, but we don't use the term outsourcing in the government market. Outsourcing is a commercial term. In the government market, we call it teaming. And so teaming or joint venturing is the terminology in the government market. Yes, yes, you can outsource it as well. You are correct, but outsourcing is a terminology that is commonly used in the commercial market itself. So any questions before we wrap up here? So one question is, the certification program, is that a tax deductible or business expense? You know, anything you do with us, it would be a business expense. And we're an association, but we're not the traditional association out there. We are what's called a for benefit organization, which is not a nonprofit and which is a pseudo for profit. So we're more structured as a for profit organization, but we operate as a for benefit organization. This is a new type of entity. Some of you may have not heard of what is a for benefit organization, but there are different type of for benefit organizations out there. Like Ben and Jerry ice cream is a for benefit organization. Chipotle is a for benefit organization. And so as an association, we exist for the good of the industry. And so we have a social mission and we have a profit mission. And so like Ben and Jerry has a social mission, they have a profit mission. And so we're structured a little bit different from other associations out there. Okay. Can you find the recording? Yes, the recording is there for the last episode. Um, yes, you can do joint venture for the commercial market as well. Joint venture in the government market, when we say that you're doing a joint venture, this is the actual definition of it. A teaming means two companies contractually agree to work with each other. A joint venture is a different type of teaming to where you actually, it's a higher level of teaming where two companies actually come and they form a new LLC. And the new LLC is the company that will actually bid on the project. So joint venture means you actually form a new LLC, and the new LLC can have two or more companies. It could be three companies or four companies that form the JV. And so JVs are very important strategy in the government market as well. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's podcast here. So excited for all of you. If you are joining us live every single Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, that's Eastern time. We do the live podcast. It's more of a coaching session, but Vicky has some other more pressing matters to attend. So today, you guys had a class for a podcast, and we also have different things. So if you're watching this on replay, we want continue to watch the replay, and don't forget to like and subscribe for our channel, and share the opportunities. Share this video with your friends and people out there. If you're watching us live, come back and join us. With that, you are one contract away from your goals, one contract away from the dream house you want, one contract away from the vacation you want, one contract away from the Cadillac that your wife wants. One of my coaching clients, he almost quit government contracting because his wife told him, you got to stop because we spend all of our money. And he told her, I can't stop. I'm so close. And so finally, when he won his $51 million contract, I did a podcast with him, and he said, Abe, today my wife is actually going out there to look for her Cadillac. So yes, you are one contract away from your Cadillac. Now, some of you, it might be a sports car, but some of you, it might be an SUV. One contract away. Don't quit. Keep going. I will see you another episode. Take care, buddy. Have a good one.